When we're talking about AI in healthcare, we're talking about algorithms and doctors and models and documentation. I want to bring the nurses in the middle. And I want to say nursing is not just task completion. It is navigating care, it is reading family dynamics, and sometimes it is patching up between the doctor and the family, and you're the line in between. Hello and welcome to another episode of the AI Ready Doctor podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Bencheqroun, or Dr. B, or Hassan, and I'm here hosting a delightful friend, someone I'm lucky to interact with very frequently, either on the stage of the Society of Critical Care Medicine, Southern California chapter, or just bantering and kikiing here and there. Mary, you are not just a phenomenal critical care nurse at a prominent urban university-based hospital, but you also derive a lot of purpose from mentoring and leading and teaching. Mm-hmm. So welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much. I've been very much looking forward to it. So I'm going to be calling you Dr. B if that's okay, unless you'd like me to call you Hassan.
Either way, whatever is comfortable for you, my viewers and my listeners know me with both.
Okay.
So today, what we want to raise the awareness and the discussion, and we're going to be talking about in a sort of a coffee talk, just you and I discussing, as we discussed before, AI in nursing. And boy, is it a moment for nurses at this time, isn't it? Tell me what you're thinking about when you hear about AI in healthcare and the nurses are trying to find their way into AI.
You know, I have to say, I've learned so much, and I tell you this, of AI. When I came to you, I was a baby AI person, you know, the crawling and everything. And it has helped me open my eyes when I'm talking to staff. Nurses are really concerned. They're concerned that they're not going to have a job. AI is getting them out of a job. They're going to have to look for other things. But then there are other nurses saying, I wish we had AI, because then they could go ahead and I could dictate my notes as I'm thinking about it, and it would be in the chart. I wouldn't have to be typing. And we found, as we've looked at nurses, they are doing just charting 40% of their day just in charting. So, and in some instances, even more than that. When does that leave time for care at the bedside, what we were trained for with the patients? So I think it's a double-edged sword. Some people are afraid. Some people are wishing for it. So it would alleviate some of the stressors and things that are taking them away from patient care.
I love that you dived right in, because it isn't that you are just hearing about AI. You've been thinking deeply about AI. It's not a shiny object. It is reality. It is not just a dashboard. It's something that got deployed before anyone got trained in it. And everyone is training sort of the best way that they can. So you're not just thinking about it, you're asking about it in a better question. So let us sort of talk a little bit about this. Usually when I hear talk about AI, I'm guilty about it myself. When I first started the podcast, it says the AI Ready Doctor. It was for doctors. And when I started my Medical AI Academy first web series, I put it for the busy doctor. And then this year, my eyes opened. My dad is in the hospital, and the nurses are every single minute of every single day. So when we're talking about AI in healthcare, we're talking about algorithms and doctors and models and documentation and billing. I want to bring the nurses in the middle. And I want to say nursing is not just task completion. It is navigating care, it is reading family dynamics, and sometimes it is patching up between the doctor and the family, and you're the line in between. So let me ask you this. When you think about the critical care nurse of the future, what should never be automated?
I feel very strongly that interaction with the patient. Now, and I say that, and people say, in the critical care, they're sedated, they're not moving, they're not talking. How are you interacting with the patient? Well, we have to remember as critical care practitioners, we're taking all the data we get, touching, seeing, feeling. And that's what I'm saying about the interaction. But I don't want us to forget that even though patients are sedated, maybe they're not talking to you, maybe they're not reacting to you, they can still hear you. They can still hear what you're doing. And you have stories, or even in literature, saying where patients couldn't talk because they were sedated or they were paralyzed. And they're hearing people coming in. They're not doing anything. They just hear little footsteps. Then they feel people touching them. Then they're just manhandling them. Then they're starting to poke them. And that's what I mean about interaction. We really can't give that away. That's what being in the medical field is that human interaction, connectedness. And I just don't want that to go ahead and go to the AI way. Now, granted, we can use AI in helping us remind us of stuff, helping us to say, okay, go ahead and do this assessment. Go ahead and take a look at this. But for me personally, as a critical care nurse, I don't want that to go to AI.
What I hear from you and what I've experienced as a patient, as well as a family of a patient, is that the nurses carry the patient's story across shifts, across teams, across charts, and across families. Because when we say, and the ambient AI hears, distended abdomen, it can mean many things. It can be abdominal compartment syndrome. It can mean ascites. It can mean ileus, gas distension, many things. The AI picks up on the words, but the nurse picks up on the vibe. It's the nurse that interprets what AI has summarized. And so I think that even now, as we look at predictive analytics, an alert comes in. We have learned that alerts in the ICU, there's noise pollution. And there is alert fatigue. It's the nurse that interprets the alert, whether it belongs to real life or not. So while AI can count the drips, the nurse is who can tell you something feels off in the room. Now, we have discussed how the nurses are critical, pun intended, for their patients. But a lot of the nurses are saying, is it going to replace me? And I couldn't help. You and I discussed the movie, and the movie was the movie Hidden Figures. There's plenty of really good actors there, Taraji Henson and Kevin Costner and others. And it was back in the day in NASA. And there was a group of the ladies, and they were the stenographers and the shorthand and secretaries. And they brought this huge machine, and the men at that time were learning the computer. And one, Octavia Spencer went, or her character one time saw that computer and was going on her off time to read the manual, and then brought the ladies to study the manual with her. And 1 week they were going to get rid of them, and they couldn't figure out a problem, and she happened to be around and says, this is the solution. And they turned perplexed and said, how do you know? Well, we know about the computer. And there was a dramatic scene in the moment where the ladies are moving from one building to the other. They were going to get sacked that week because they didn't know them. The computer computed all of the secretarial jobs until they became savvy about the computer. And suddenly, not only Did they not lose their job? They became purposeful in their new job. So it isn't that the jobs will be lost, they will change. So I guess the question that I have, it's not whether AI is coming for nurses, but the machine is being rolled into the hospital. Who's going to open the manual? Does nursing need its own hidden figure moment with AI?
You know, I think one of the things I want to bring up is that we have AI models going on all the time, even years and years and years ago. We just didn't know it. So, say for instance, if I can say there's a prominent electronic medical health record company that has an analytic that goes in the background and it lets nurses know what's going on. That's AI. And it wasn't until I was talking with you and the levels. So the reason why I bring this up is we've been living in through AI. What more can we do? Do we need a hidden figures? It's hard to say because how fast is AI going? At this moment, do we need a hidden figures? I would say we need to be part of the process, but a hidden figures, I can't tell you. And I think it's because AI is changing so rapidly. There are things coming out into AI, into the healthcare field, that it's almost faster than the new drugs that are coming out, keeping up with it. And I think that we as nurses, we learn something new every day. That's one of my mottos. We learn something. It doesn't have to be grandioso. It doesn't have to be life changing. Something new you learn that you can pass on. So if you see that there is something in AI and they want you to test it out, I think you need to be on board because when that moment arises, you want to be able to say, yes, I want to get on board with this hidden figures moment. Or it's going to be, I don't want to get involved and get left behind.
So I love how you put it. The question isn't whether nurses or not whether nurses will use AI. They already are. The question is, you need to include it in all of the new things you're learning every day. You're learning about that new flow track. You're learning about the new IV pump that just got rolled out in the hospital. You're learning about the new ventilators, even though they are for RTs. You need to know. So it's not about becoming engineers. It is about being clinically fluent in AI enough to challenge bad tools. If an ambient scribe is deployed, if a new alert system of a sepsis score is deployed, I need to be able to understand what's under the hood so I can give my feedback. It only gives me that bad score when a CRP is there, but not when a procalcitonin. Or it only gives me a delirium score when there is a patient who has a different language than English. So it makes you question, has it been studying patients like mine? Or has it been studying other patients and deployed in my patient, therefore there's an error rate? So that's my vision for nurses, is to have AI literacy become your shield for your job. Because I'll tell you what, of 25 years, 24 out of the past 25 years, the one job that still holds the general public's trust is a nurse. Not an airplane pilot, not a finance, counselor, not a doctor, a nurse. And so that is going nowhere because there is that human aspect of it. So that leads me to, if we are nervous about AI, honestly, they should not be. But they should be alert because healthcare has a history of introducing technology that promises relief and delivers, delivery of salvation for a lot of things. But instead, it delivered more alert, more clicks, less time at the bedside. And so we still have scar tissues from the electronic health record. And so when you hear an AI dashboard, literally our soul leaves our body for a quick break. So we want to honor the nerves. So my question to you is, what should make nurses nervous and still be a legitimate concern when it comes to AI?
You know, I think giving a lot of the critical thinking to AI. And I say that in regards to when AI is prompting us as we speak right now,
Yes.
and really not taking the next step into critically thinking, what is it saying to you? And we have this saying, and you probably have heard it in critical care: treat the patient, not the machine.
Oh,
And
yes.
if we are going to go ahead and treat the machine and leave our patients behind, there are going to be errors. And I think the biggest thing we need to go ahead and do as AI, because there's no stopping AI. AI is here. It is out of the gates, and it's the gates have opened up. The horses are running, and we can't get the horses back in. So let's get on the horse and start riding, because we have to go with it. And I do think to me, that is the one thing I, as a clinician, wanting to make sure we don't lose that critical thinking, because that's what helps us tell the difference between AI, what it's been fed, and what we are seeing, feeling, that intuition that has actually been studied. And it is a factual element that intuition from a clinician is can be just as good or even better than a computer generated. So I think the one thing we all have to remember is it's so easy to go ahead and let AI do some stuff. Oh, I'll just go ahead and let it look up stuff, but I don't validate it. Oh, I'll just go ahead and let AI find a good restaurant, but we don't look at what the reviews have been. And I'm just giving just random things that we let AI either see, or maybe I'm going to just let AI give me the background on a disease and maybe leave out some key pertinent items. I don't know, because I don't let it do it for me, but those are things we have to think about.
I have queried various social media, such as Reddit and Twitter and Facebook, various discussion groups from nurses about fears. And I want you to give me a thumbs up or down. Do you agree? Do
Okay.
you disagree?
Okay.
AI nurses fear.
Okay.
Fear that it becomes a Trojan horse, a surveillance method. Thumbs up, thumbs down.
I have to give thumbs up, and it's just thumbs up and thumbs down, so I'm not going to go ahead and interject, so you can go through. So I'll keep it thumbs up. Okay.
Yes. Fear for more documentation burden. Thumbs down. Fear that AI will become another productivity weapon. Fear that AI will miss context. Yes. Fear of de-skilling, which means that losing some of your skills to AI. Yes. Fear of being blamed when AI is wrong. Okay. So nurses are not anti-technology. They're just anti being what? Voluntold into broken technology? What do you think?
I think, you know, it's not the technology, because technology has been around, and it is I mean, if we just talked to a nurse that has been a nurse for 30 years, going through all the new technology that has come through her time as a nurse. So it's not the technology. In my opinion, it's the fast pace that it's coming upon us and how much it's encroaching into every aspect of what we do as a nurse. And that's what I think is making people fearful from talking to them, interacting when we talk about AI. So the technology portion, that's something that they have to live with. They can't get away from it. That's healthcare, and that's what you do with healthcare. It's the speed that this is coming on, and we have no control of the speed. And I don't think, to tell you the truth, that people have been fully taught on how to use it. And this is where some of the fear is coming from.
I would agree with this. So the question that I have is nurses, generally speaking, they are, well, they're looking out for their patients. They're looking out even for their doctors, for their respiratory therapists and pharmacists. I have a post that I read on LinkedIn from one of the nurse influencer. I like to call them trusted advisors. They're not influencers. That the first AI safety monitor in healthcare may not be an engineer. It just may be a nurse. So why are nurses uniquely positioned to catch AI mistakes?
You know, I do think as nurses, because we're looking at changes in how the patient is progressing, changes in how they're mentating, changes in interaction with family, because even interaction can mean something. And we take all of that information in. And I do think we are poised in healthcare to go ahead and notice that and say something, because we are the safety monitor. We're actually the last person that it goes through before it gets to the patient in a lot of instances. So we're taking due diligence of what we're doing, what we're seeing, how we're assessing, and making sure before it gets to the patient, we've done our checks and balances. So that's why I do think nurses are poised in that position to go ahead and be the one to monitor, to catch, to refine, because once they monitor and catch, I tell you, it's going to be added to that AI knowledge, and it's going to refine how AI is doing whatever it is doing at that time to go ahead and do better.
To go ahead and do better. And what we're calling today is for all the nurses to feel empowered to lead the movement. One of such nurse leaders on LinkedIn that I follow, his name is Maxim Topaz, and super well-versed in AI in nursing, worked with the American Academy of Nursing regarding a position statement for AI intelligence in healthcare. And what his statement was that when AI recommendations conflict with clinical judgment, clinicians may experience moral distress. It isn't a fringe concern. It is now official policy language from the board of directors of the American Academy of Nursing. And we've spent years wondering if AI is going to replace us, but we did not even talk about how it's quietly reorganizing our work in ways nobody is measuring or governing. So what do you think about this particular angle, which is the moral distress when the AI output or if AI chooses something and we choose another, that clash, how is it going to be perceived, whether by leaders or by patients sometimes? Because AI's output is very confident. And so that may translate very differently at the bedside. What do you think about the moral distress when there is discrepancy between the AI output and the nurse's instinct?
Right now, nurses second guess themselves as it is right now because they want to do due diligence. They want to make sure they're not harming the patients. I've had one nurse tell me the next day, I was up all night because I wasn't sure what I did was right. And even myself, I've had one patient I still remember to this day. I got a physician order. I thought I was following it, but there was something I was missing. And they said, "You missed it." And then I was replaying. Did I miss it? Did I do what's best? Did I harm the patient? And I think in from my opinion, and also with talking from everybody, I do think it's real because we want to do what's right. And we want to make sure that if we're going against something that is directing us, we want to know darn sure that we're on the right path before we step off of the brick road and we go onto the dirt road. We want to make sure we're not causing harm to patients. And I think we have so much pressures from dealing with families, each other, interdisciplinaries, and making sure we've done what the hospital sets as standards for patient care. Now we have another item on top of it that falls into the mix that we have to go ahead and take into account. And then we have people that play it back. Did I do it right? Did I do it right? And this is where the stress can come from did I do it right to why did I follow it when I had an inkling it was wrong, but I just went with what it said. And that's the other piece of it. If we go with what it says and it's wrong and we don't check it out. So, I mean, there's two items there. We don't follow it, and then we have distress because maybe we should have. We did follow it, but we didn't do our due diligence, and maybe some were thinking until we get that next assessment, or maybe you've done your 3 days. You don't see the patient for 3 days, and then you're lamenting for 3 days. Did I do this? Did I do this right? That sort of thing.
So I guess because it is confident, it makes us question ourselves, and we have to assume that AI can be wrong. We have to ask AI for sources and verify those sources. We have to verify against our policy, our guidelines, our institutional standards. And we also shouldn't paste, PHI into public tools. We can use AI for drafts, but we have to check for final answers. And we have to build verification into the workflows. That is from a conversation that you and I had before. Now, give me some use cases that you could use AI in nursing, because I want our listeners to take with them what they can use tomorrow. So when you say AI, I mean, everybody thinks ChatGPT. So let's take the ChatGPT-like model and where can we use it in our first day? And I'll start with one example. One example is, for example, if we had a AI that can search our institutional policies for a policy about the chest tube in a specific, nurse's hands, and what is the scope of that nurse and that policy. We spend a lot of time looking for policies when we have things that we don't do on an everyday basis. So what other use cases do you see?
I see AI as an alert that they could go ahead and give them at least areas that they could be alerted to. So say, for instance, there are very different disease processes that are not just the usual that you hear out in the public. Say, for instance, most people may not know what Stephen Johnson syndrome is. And when you have that understanding what are some of the uses. If you could use AI to alert you, hey, when this symptom comes up, because you've looked at it and you're just asking it to do a reminder of such. So best case uses for nurses in AI as we see it now with a chat GPT like. Um, I think the biggest thing that people are using it for is looking up diseases to help them understand. Now, mind you, we always have to do our due diligence because there are other areas that you can look at diseases, but this can give you something quick, something easy. The other thing is to actually take a look at how we can go ahead and maybe look at a particular product that you have. Right now, people are using YouTube, and YouTube can be hit and miss depending on
Mm-hmm.
what facility it was made from. Another thing is to go ahead and take a look now at maybe what is the best way to do something. So, case in point, we were taking a look at how we can change a dressing on a burn patient, and we were going back and forth. What do you think? So we put it into an AI, and it gave us a hybrid, and it gave us something to think about to go ahead and do the treatment for this burn patient because we were trying to go back and forth of how not to hurt the patient. So those are just a few examples that come to mind that if you needed to use AI right now, what would be safe that the nurse would feel confident, albeit they're going to have to do due diligence to take a look to make sure it's not telling you something false that it was fed,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe it's not even giving you the full picture, but it's just one opinion. Is if you're asking a girlfriend, what do you think I look like? And you ask this girlfriend, what do you think I look like? And you ask this girlfriend, what do you think I look? AI is one of the girlfriends. You're just asking their opinion.
I love that. I want to give you one more time the thumbs up or thumbs down. These
Okay.
are some of the use cases I got from nurses on social media.
Okay.
Um, Shift handoff summaries,
Yeah.
simulation cases for nurse students,
Definitely.
teach back scripts.
Okay.
Okay, goals of care in end of life conversations. Thumbs down. I agree with that one. Role play for hard conversations.
Mm.
And lastly, drafting patient portal messages. You're hesitating. I get it. Yep, I agree with you. So I guess my question to you is now we're getting to the hard part where the nurses feel uncomfortable. And in that, it adds itself sometimes to the moral distress. And I've learned in your midst, you and Olena, and she's hopefully going to be one of my guests as well, about the Schwartz rounds. Can you tell us about the Schwartz rounds? What are they, and how could AI help or not in Schwartz rounds?
So Schwartz rounds are rounds that are talking about cases that were very challenging to the healthcare team. It doesn't have to be a very high profile or or a difficult disease. It could be even just challenging families as you're going through the care. Maybe there were things that ethically had come up that it's bringing practitioners together. So it's really having an outlet for practitioners to talk about these challenging cases in a way that could be bounced off of others. And I do think in AI, this is actually an area where some of these are really high emotional cases. And if you have, and I'm going back to the girlfriend, because let me tell you, in healthcare, we all have our girlfriends, our good people. We just bounce things off of each other. What do you think of this? How would you feel? Do you think that we could go ahead and do something different? And AI could actually be that impartial entity that could actually give us some information. And it's not based upon emotion, because we do have ideas based upon our background, our upbringing, what we've got, what we've been exposed to. It shapes what we go ahead and tell people. AI is basically what has been programmed, and a lot of programming so it could sift. But I do have to go ahead and say again, it's only as good, the output is only as good as the input. And you have to go ahead and make sure, just like if a girlfriend said, "Ooh, that don't look good. It looks good to me. I don't know what you're talking about." So you have to take some thought about what it's giving you, but it is an avenue.
So keeping your agency in the era of AI. So I have a suggestion,
Okay.
and I want you to modify this
Okay.
for nursing if you see that this isn't working, or sanction this if this is something that you can take. One of the things I say to my colleagues, physicians, is to suggest perhaps a 7-day plan, which is day one, pick one AI tool approved for personal, non-PHI use. Day two, ask it to explain AI in nursing in plain language, or ask it to give you a reservation at a restaurant in plain language, or ask it to, I don't know, why is this light on my car engine is on? Day three, ask it to rewrite a patient education with no identifiers. Day four, ask it to create teach-back questions. Day five, test it against the policy or guidelines and ask it to read the entire 32-page and show where does it clash with it and where could it get you in trouble. Day six, use it for reflection after a hard shift without patient details. And day seven, write one paragraph on what helped, what scared you, and what you want nurses to keep control of. What do you think of this 7-day plan? What could you change? What could you keep? What would you add?
You know, I think 7 days may be fast. And the reason why I say that is, depending on the person, you may have to digest what AI has said before you go on to something else. So, one thing I would go ahead and add is give it a day in between to go ahead and digest before you go on to the next thing. You may want to go ahead and maybe take a look and do some digging. That's just a suggestion. I do like that you've added in items that are personal, professional, and beyond. I think the one thing that we may have a challenge with is de-identifying. That's my biggest fear. And because hospitals and PHI is really big on it, because it can cause lawsuits, that's where I say it may be something that may need to be modified slightly, maybe given a scenario so that they could go ahead and maybe modify it themselves to fit something they've done. That's just a suggestion to help with that PHI item, because I've been around a couple of people that it almost cost them their job. So I am really protective of my colleagues, but the patient's information as well, because you need a roof over your head. So,
I love that you said that. I want to share with you an experience. I read an
mhm.
article once. I'm not smart enough to have come up with it by myself, but I read an article once where this physician said that she kept feeling unheard by her family. And whenever she comes from a very hard shift, the family just, doesn't seem to get how hard it was on her morally. And one day when she said that to them, they said, well, you don't share with us anything. And she came to the conclusion that they are right. But at the same time, how are we going to share with somebody that I placed a central line and it caused a pneumothorax to somebody? And you have to explain all of this. And so for me, I said, well, how can I work with this and find the middle ground? Sometimes we delve into the story and all we want to be heard for is the emotion behind the story. And so instead of delving in the story, I started to say, I call, for example, my family and say, how was your day? And I say to them, today was hard. Oh, really? What happened? I didn't need to tell them the septic shock and the multi-organ failure and the four pressors. I just said, today I told her, a mother, that her son is not coming home. That's it. That's the emotion that weighs on me, not the story behind it. And that conveyed the message without the PHI. So this is where I found myself connecting this. So in order for us to, time goes by fast when you're having fun, especially with a friend. I want to ask you in a rapid fire, and
Okay.
you can answer me with one word, but the most that it can be is one sentence.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you a question, and you
Okay.
can answer me in a rapid
Okay.
fire. One AI myth nurses should ignore.
AI myth a nurse should ignore. Wow. AI myth. Oh, um, that AI is your boyfriend.
That,
Sorry.
you
I
know,
know it's
that should
nursing,
have been the
but it,
closing question. Yes.
sorry.
Golly, you have no idea. We're going to have an episode just on that. It is superb.
So,
It is
so,
superb.
so nursing wise, a myth. You know what? I think it's going to be more so that, AI will always give you the right or the wrong answer. And I think it just depends on who you're talking to. So that's why I had to give a preface.
Wonderful. Thank you. One AI skill every nurse should learn.
They need to learn there's different AI tools out there.
Wow. Okay. There are different AI tools out there. Fantastic. And give me one AI use case you trust.
Use case I trust. For me, what I've used AI for, and I do trust it, and right now it's reformatting words that I'm going to put down. So I give it the sentence and it reformats. I so I'll leave it at that for one
Amazing.
sentence.
Reformatting. And I think you and I discussed how nurses could use it to lubricate some of the conflict that happens on a day to day and how you can take the edge out of words that you use, whether with a family, whether with a colleague or with. So reformat. I love that. One AI use case that makes you nervous.
Diagnosing or in nursing wise, it would just be a differential diagnosis of a patient because we don't diagnose as nurses.
Excellent. I love that. One thing nurse leaders must stop doing.
In regards to AI, I think putting out there that AI is the bad guy in healthcare right now.
Beautiful. One thing nurse educators must start teaching.
How to use AI appropriately around nursing.
Amazing. One sentence you would tell a new grad nurse about AI.
You can use AI, but you need to use your critical thinking on what it's giving you.
I was hoping you'd say that. I love it. One sentence you would tell a chief nursing officer.
We need training on AI for our staff if it's in the hospital now.
And lastly, one sentence you would tell about AI to young new grad nurse Mary.
Stop being a chicken. Get out there and start using it. It's okay, but you needed to have due diligence.
I love it. I do. I sincerely love it. Listen, this has been amazing. Thank you for bringing the conversation back to the bedside. Thank you for helping me elevate nurses and bring in the word AI and nurse in the same sentence without fear and without confusion and without nervousness. It is about protecting the parts of nursing that should never be buried behind, I don't know, alarms and dashboards and metrics and clicks. I want the future nurse to supervise AI agents. And I want the future nurse to notice, to question, to translate, and to protect. Because Lord knows, I see nurses and I'm so grateful for what they've done for me and for what they've done for my father and my family. So let me ask you for one closing thought.
You know, I've said this before, and I think I've said it to you, that in healthcare, we are a partnership in how we care for patients. And I feel very fortunate that we have physicians like you who are looking at us and not just looking at how AI can help their physician area, but can help the next portion of healthcare interdisciplinaries, the nurse, and how we can use the tools that are out there, but how we can safeguard against it. And it's been a very fun ride with you. In that, again, I just want to say thank you for sharing your knowledge, because I was the scared person. I wouldn't even, when somebody said chat GPT, I said, Now, I know a little more. I don't use ChatGPT, I use others, but I want everybody else not to be afraid. Embrace, but make sure you're critically thinking. So thank you, Dr. B, for bringing us along into this new world of technology that it's here. We need to go ahead and embrace it.
You're amazing. And I sincerely love you. I think the future nurse will still do what nurses have always done. And that is indeed protect the patients, even if it means costing them their job or costing them their day. So let's remind ourselves that the patient is not a data point. With a wristband, it is a human being, and their story merits to be carried, and the nurses do it best. Curiosity is infectious. Catch it here at the AI Ready Doctor podcast. See you next time.